Hello, STEM Launch, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. Here we go with our first survey. This one is all about you, how you are at school. I'll walk you through every single question and give you an explanation of what it means, but I am going to go pretty quick. If you need more time, you can always feel free to pause if you need more time to answer, okay? And to not distract you, I'm actually going to turn off the video, so take a nice good look at my face because it is now gone for the rest of the video. All right, here we go. Your first 5 questions are all about the class you're currently in. So we're going to be thinking about the work that you're doing in your class and how that transfers every year. You might be thinking a lot about perseverance during this first section. That means working hard toward a goal, even if it's hard and even if you don't get that goal right away. You're still setting goals for yourself and you still work hard to meet that goal if you can persevere. So your first question is, how sure are you that you can complete all work that is assigned in your class? So if you say, I don't think I can complete the work in my class at all, none of it, you can click not at all. If you say, I can complete just a tiny bit of the work I'm assigned in class, you get to click slightly. If you say, I'm in the middle, I can complete maybe half of the work assigned in my class, I can click this one. If I say, oh, well, I'm very sure that I can complete all the work assigned in my class, you can click this one, like you do it most of the time. And if you say, I am super sure, I know that I complete every single piece of work in my class, you get to click extremely, this one. Next question is all about complicated things. Complicated means things that are tricky to know or to do. So, when complicated ideas are discussed in class, how sure are you that you can understand them? If you say, I can't understand them at all, you click this one. If you say, I can kind of understand them just a little bit, you get to click slightly. If you say, I cannot understand all of the things, but I understand about half of the things, you get to click somewhat in the middle. If you say, I'm pretty sure I can understand most of the complicated ideas in class, you get to click quite. And if you say, I can understand pretty much all of the complicated ideas in class, then you get to click extremely. The third question mentions the word topics. A topic is a new piece of learning that you get during class. So it could be things like science or social studies, or even more specific like fractions or division, those kinds of things. So how sure are you that you can learn all the topics taught in your class? Not at all. You aren't sure you can learn any of the topics. I can learn a bit of the topics. I can learn maybe half of the topics, would be somewhat. I can learn most of the topics, is quite. And I can learn all of the topics, almost all of them, would be extremely. Number 4 says, how sure are you that you can do the hardest work that is assigned in your class? If you're not at all sure, you click that not at all. If you say, I can only do a tiny bit of the hardest work in class, you get to click slightly. If you say, I'm in the middle, I can do maybe half of the hardest work in class, you get to click somewhat. If you can say, I can do a good chunk of the hardest work in class, you get to click quite. If you say, I can do almost all of the hardest work in class, you get to click extremely. So you're starting to get the idea. We'll do one more. How sure are you that you will be able to remember what you are learning in your class next year? So thinking about if you're in 3rd grade, will you remember that stuff in 4th grade? Or if you're in 4th, will you remember it in 5th? If you're in 7th, will you remember it in 8th? If you say, nope, I'm not going to remember anything at all, you get to click not at all. If you say, I'll remember a few things, you can click slightly. If you say, I'm in the middle, I'll remember half of things, you can click somewhat. If you say, oh, I'm going to remember a lot of things, maybe not all of them, but a lot, you can click quite. And if you say, oh, I am extremely sure that I'm going to remember everything, you get to click extremely. So you start to see that's kind of how this scale works. You can think of it as not at all being nope, nothing. You can think of slightly meaning a tiny little bit. You can think of somewhat to be in the middle, like you're doing half of it or you do it half the time. You can think of quite as you're doing it a good chunk of the time. And you can think of extremely as almost all of the time. So I'm not necessarily going to explain these all for every single question, but you know what this scale means now. So questions 6 through 11 is about your performance in school. Whether a person does well or poorly in school could depend on a lot of different things. And you might feel like some of these things are easier to change than others. So think about how you persevere and how you manage your energy and emotions and effort as you go through your school day every day. This next question talks about talented. Talented means the ability to do something well, and it comes in lots of different forms. Sometimes if we're talented at something, we can do things more easily than others can. So, is it possible in school for you to change being talented? If you say, nope, not at all, I don't have any change or any power over being good at something, then you say here. If you say, oh, I have a bit of ability to change that here. If you're in the middle, 50-50 here. If you say, oh yeah, I'm pretty sure I could change being talented, you get to click quite. And if you definitely believe that you can change your talent levels, you can click extremely. The next one's about effort. Effort means putting work in to do something, like practicing a skill to get better at a skill. For example, this picture here is showing you a footballer practicing his foot skills so that he can get better. He's putting in the effort. So, in school, is it possible for you to change giving a lot of effort? Not at all. Slightly you can change that. You can maybe halfway change that somewhat. Quite, yes, you can change that, you think, or extremely, oh yeah, you can. This next question is about behavior. Behavior is how someone acts. So, is it possible for you to change behaving well in class? Choose your answer, not at all. It's slightly possible. It's somewhat possible in the middle. It's quite possible, yes, I can do it. Or it's extremely possible, I know I can do it. Number 9 says, in school, how possible is it for you to change liking the subjects you're studying? So not at all, I can't change if I like something or not. Slightly means I can change it just a little bit. Somewhat means, depends what it is, 50-50 in the middle. I quite means I'm pretty sure I could change if I like something or not over time, or extremely means of course I could change liking a subject in school. And 10 is, can you change how easily it is to give up? So if you say, nope, not at all, that's not in my power, you can click not at all. Or you could click, it's slightly possible to change that. It's somewhat possible to change that. It's quite possible to change that. Or it's extremely possible to change how easily I give up. And then this next question is about intelligence. Is it possible for you to change your intelligence level? Intelligence means showing the ability to easily learn or understand things. So, is it possible for you to change how well you understand things and how easy it is for you to understand things? If you say, nope, not at all, you click not at all. If you say, I might be able to change it just a little bit, you click slightly. If you say, oh, I can somewhat change it, maybe, kinda, you can click the middle. If you say, yeah, I think I could maybe change my intelligence level, or how easy it is for me to do something if I tried, or extremely, I am super confident. It's super possible that I could change my level of intelligence. All right. So if you need a brain break at this point, you can pause the video and take a brain break. Or if you're ready to keep rolling, we'll just keep on rolling. These next questions, oh my gosh, there's a whole bunch. And it's all about your behavior. We're going to answer these questions about how you respond to different situations. And remember all of your management skills for your emotions that you have learned this year and that you use, like your breathing, like your positive self-talk, like your journaling, like your affirmations, like your trusted adults, all of those things. All of these questions talk about the past 30 days. So think about basically since we've been back from winter break, more or less, actually a couple weeks into school, but you can think about since we've been back from winter break. How often were you polite to adults? Polite means showing nice behavior, considerate, compassionate. So, how often were you polite to adults? Almost never. Every once in a while. Sometimes. Most of the time is frequently, or almost all of the time. Choose your answer for how often you are polite to adults. Those are the teachers and the other adults in the building. Next up, still thinking about the past month, how carefully did you listen to other people's point of view? Point of view is referring to how other people think or see things. So if you never listen to other people's point of view, you click not at all. Or maybe you slightly listened, or maybe you somewhat listened, or quite would mean you listen to people's point of view a lot of the time, or extremely means you listen to people's point of view almost all of the time. Next up, it is how often did you come to class prepared? Like you had your Chromebook, your pencils, a notebook, anything you need for class. If you almost never show up with the things you need for class, you click almost never. Or maybe you show up prepared once in a while, you can click once in a while. Or sometimes, click sometimes. Or frequently means you commonly, almost always, or a lot of the time, come to class prepared. Or you can click almost all of the time if you are almost all of the time coming prepared to class. Next up is how much did you care about other people's feelings in the past month? If you didn't care about people's feelings, not at all, you click this box to the left. If you slightly cared, you can click slightly. If you said I'm in the middle, maybe half the time I cared about other people's feelings, you can click somewhat. If you cared about other people's feelings a lot of the time, most of the time, you can click quite. And if you almost always care about other people's feelings, you can click extremely. In the past 30 days, how often did you follow directions in class? You can choose almost never, once in a while, sometimes, frequently, which means most of the time, or almost all of the time did you follow directions in class. Next question is, during the past 30 days, how well did you get along with students who are different from you? So think about the empathy learning that you've maybe done. Empathy is the ability to feel or understand what someone else is feeling. So how well did you get along with students who are different from you? If you didn't at all, you can click not at all. Or maybe you slightly got along with those people. Or maybe you somewhat got along with those people like half the time. Or maybe you got along with those people who are different from you quite a bit of time. Or maybe you almost always get along with people that are different from you. Then you can click extremely. Question 18 is how often did you get your work done right away instead of waiting till the last minute? So this is talking about procrastination. If you waited until the last second before the assignment was due, or if you did it right away. So if you did your homework right away instead of waiting almost never, you can click almost never. If you did that once in a while, you did it right away, you click there. If you sometimes, maybe like half the time, do it right away and don't wait, you can click sometimes. If you frequently, you commonly, a lot of the time, you do your work right away and don't wait till the last second, you can click frequently. Or maybe you can click almost all of the time you get your work done right away. 19 talks about distractions. A distraction is something that stops you from paying attention. So, how often in the past month did you pay attention and ignore or resist those distractions? Almost never. Once in a while, you were able to resist those distractions. Sometimes, maybe half the time, you were able to pay attention and resist those distractions. Maybe frequently, a lot of the time, you were able to pay attention and not get distracted. Or maybe almost all of the time, you're able to pay attention and ignore distractions. Choose your answer. 20 is how clearly were you able to describe your feelings? Remember, feelings can have a lot of high energy or they can go all the way down to low energy. They could be unpleasant or pleasant feelings, but knowing the way we feel helps us talk to other people and manage our emotions. So, my question is, how clearly were you able to describe your feelings? Put a name to it, like one of these names here. I'm chill, I'm calm, or I'm bored, I'm exhausted, I'm angry, I'm nervous, I'm hopeful, I'm happy. How often were you able to describe those feelings? Not at all. Every once in a while, like a tiny bit. In the middle, like half the time. Quite would be you can describe it most of the time, or extremely would be you can almost always describe your feelings. 21 is when you were working independently, how often did you stay focused? Remember, focused is paying attention, avoiding those distractions. So if you say, oh, I almost never stay focused, you can click there. I can stay focused every once in a while is here. I can sometimes stay focused, like half the time would be in the middle. I can frequently stay focused, like I can do it a good chunk of the time would be frequently, or almost all of the time I can stay focused would be almost all the time. Here's another opportunity if you need to pause this video to take a quick brain break. Remember, brain break should not take more than about a minute to 2 minutes. You can stretch. Otherwise, if you're ready to keep rolling, let's keep going. Question 22 is, in the past month, when others disagreed with you, how respectful were you of their views? And in this case, what they mean by respectful is being nice about someone's views. So, when people disagreed with you, how nice were you about their views? Not at all. Only a little bit nice. In the middle, kind of nice, like halfway nice. You were very nice if you were quite, or you were extremely super nice, would be extremely. This next one is about calmness. Remember, calmness is like this state of peacefulness and quietness. A calm person doesn't show signs of anger or worry or excitement. They're just zen. And remember, there's different ways to feel calm, like taking a breath or thinking helpful thoughts, asking for help, those kinds of things. So, how often did you remain calm even when someone was bothering you or saying bad things? You can choose almost never. Once in a while, you stayed calm. Sometimes you stayed calm would mean like half the time. Frequently stayed calm means you can stay calm most of the time, or almost all of the time you stayed calm. 24 is, to what extent were you able to stand up for yourself without putting others down? What that means is you're able to be assertive. You can face the person you're talking to, keep your head up, your shoulders back, and use a tone of voice that is calm, firm, and uses kind, compassionate language. So you can say how you feel, what happened, and what you need. So, are you able to do that without putting others down? You can choose not at all. I'm slightly able to do it. I can do it a bit. I can somewhat do it. I'm in the middle. I can pretty much do that, would be quite. Or I can almost always do that, would be extremely. 25 says, how often did you allow others to speak without interrupting them? This means not talking over someone. So if you almost never were able to let someone talk without interrupting them, you can choose almost never. Or once in a while you were able to do that, or maybe only sometimes half the time. Or if you choose frequently, that would mean you commonly, almost a good chunk of the time, allow people to talk without interrupting them. Or almost all the time means you almost never interrupt people. 26 is, to what extent were you able to disagree with others without starting an argument? So saying things like, I respectfully agree, or I respectfully disagree, or just even saying, okay, that's the way you think, and moving on without starting a fight. If you're not able to do that at all, you can choose not at all. If you can do that a little bit, you can choose slightly. If you're in the middle, you can do that like half the time, you can choose somewhat. If you can um, disagree with people without starting a fight quite a bit of the time, you can choose quite. Or if you almost always can disagree with someone without starting an argument, you can choose extremely. 27 is again about polite. That's about acting kind, compassionate, showing people dignity. So, how often were you polite to other students? Almost never. Once in a while. Sometimes. That means like half the time you were. Frequently means more than half the time, but not all the time. Or almost all the time you were polite to other students. 28 is, how often did you compliment others' accomplishments? So others' accomplishments talks about people reaching their goal. And a compliment is giving praise or approval to someone else. So saying good job on being able to get into North Glen High School STEM track, or well done on that math test. Things like that. If you almost never were able to compliment other people's accomplishments, you can click almost never. If you did it once in a while, only a few times, you click the once in a while. If you sometimes compliment other people like half the time or a little less than half the time, you can choose sometimes. If you compliment other people a lot of the time, you can choose frequently. And if you compliment people almost all the time, you can choose almost all the time. 29 says, how often did you keep your temper under control? Temper is the tendency to act really angry or out of control. And control means being in charge. So how often did you make sure keep your anger under control? You can choose almost never, once in a while, sometimes, frequently, which would mean like more than half the time, but not all the time, or almost all the time you were able to keep your anger under control. All right, these next questions are about feelings in general. We're hoping to learn how you experience different emotions that might occur in your life. Those could be inside school or outside of school, and what skills you use to control those feelings. So, this question's about emotions. Emotions are how you feel. And controlling your emotions is being in charge of how you feel. So, how often in the past month, 30 days, have you been able to pull yourself out of a bad mood? You can choose almost never. You can choose once in a while. You can choose sometimes if it's about half the time. You can choose frequently if a lot of the time you can pull yourself out of that bad mood, or almost all the time. 31 says when everybody around you gets angry, how relaxed can you stay? If you cannot stay relaxed at all, you click not at all. If you can stay slightly relaxed when people are angry around you, you can click slightly. If you're in the middle, it's like half and half or less than half, you can click somewhat. If it's a little more than half, but not all the time, you can click quite for staying relaxed when other people are angry. Or if you can do it most of the time, you can click extremely. 32 says, how often are you able to control your emotions when you need to? You can choose almost never, once in a while, sometimes, frequently, which is a lot of the time, or almost all of the time. How often can you control your emotions when you need to? 33 is once you get upset, how often can you get yourself to relax? So if you say almost never can I get myself to relax after I'm upset, or maybe you can do it every once in a while, or maybe only sometimes, or maybe a lot of the time, that would be frequently, or maybe almost all the time you can get yourself to relax after being upset. 34 is when things go wrong for you, how calm are you able to stay? So something really bad has happened and they can bring big feelings. Are you able to stay calm? You can select none at all. I can kind of a bit stay calm would be slightly. I can somewhat stay calm in the middle. That would be like kind of, sort of. I can stay pretty calm most of the time would be quite, or extremely would be I can stay calm, very super calm. All right, this is your last opportunity in this survey to take a brain break. If you need to, go ahead and pause. Otherwise, we'll keep going. These last set of questions, it's the last set for this survey, is all about sense of belonging. We're hoping to learn how you experience a sense of belonging in STEM Launch, in your classroom, and around the people that are your age. When I'm talking about sense of belonging, I'm talking about how much students feel that they're valued members of the school community, that you feel like you're a part of the group. So the question is, how well do people at your school understand you as a person? You can say not at all. If you think they understand you just a bit, you can choose slightly. If you think they somewhat understand you, you're in the middle, maybe they understand like a little less than half about you, you can choose that one. If you think people understand a pretty good amount about you as a person, you can choose quite. Or if you feel like people really get you as a person here, you can choose extremely. 36 is how much support do adults at your school give you? Support is help or tools. It's usually words that give you the encouragement to keep going. So how much support do adults give you at your school? You can choose not at all. Slightly would be a tiny bit of support. Somewhat is they give you like in the middle support. Quite is they give you a good amount of support. And extremely is they give you as much support as you could ever ask for. 37 is how much respect do students at your school show you? Remember, respect in this scenario, we're talking about being nice to someone. So, how much respect do students at your school show you? You could choose not at all, or maybe they only show you a bit of respect, that would be slightly, or maybe they show you you're in the middle, they only respect you somewhat, or maybe you feel like they respect you quite a bit, you could choose quite, or maybe you feel like students really respect you, you can choose extremely. And this is the last question. It is overall, how much do you feel like you belong at school? If you feel like you don't belong at all, you can choose not at all. If you feel like you belong just a bit, you can choose a bit. If you feel like you're in the middle, you somewhat belong, but not really, you can choose somewhat. If you think you belong quite a bit, you can feel it, but maybe not every single day, you can choose quite. Or if you almost always feel like you belong, you can choose extremely. Woo! We made it, you guys. That was our first survey. Great job. I will be back for part 2 of your next survey. Don't worry, it's much, much, much shorter. Until then, have a fantastic rest of your day. You'll hear from me later. Goodbye.